Hey y'all, let's chat. Okay, so I kind of got bullied into doing this video. I was just watching season 3 of Love is Blind like everybody else. And of course, once the chatter started happening on social media, motherfuckers was like, where is the review? Okay, and so the thing is when I don't go into a show prepared to review it, I don't take the notes that I need to take. So I jotted some notes down last night, in my reflection of what I remember, what I saw. But I just feel like when I go into it watching it with the idea that I'm going to analyze, I have just a bit more detailed oriented perspective in how I review it. But I'm gonna just give y'all what I got. Hopefully I won't hold y'all here too long with what I done wrote up. Y'all probably be like, this girl write no notes. I wrote some notes, but they just wouldn't have been what they would have been had I went into it with the intention. But I feel like when the season first dropped, people weren't really paying it much, man. It was kind of like when you get to it. And I kind of had the same perspective because I was watching some other stuff that I needed to finish before I jumped into it. But it was surprisingly entertaining, as it typically is, right? Of course, we're just not going to have another Lauren and Cameron. But I will say that I have a favorite couple from the season. And this is where we're going to start. We're going to start with my favorite couple from the season. And I didn't anticipate to like them the way that I like them. And I really hope it works out. And if you haven't guessed, my favorite couple, which we're going to start with, is SK and Raven. Okay. Now, I got my laptop with my notes on it. I feel like they are the most improved couple. I really didn't know how to feel about them when they were in the pods initially, right? Like SK, he wasn't really bringing nothing until he started to connect with Raven. And we saw Raven connecting with Bartiz. And she just wasn't giving engaged. It was like, why does this girl keep working out in the middle of people talking? It was kind of giving rude, a little stuck up, which is why you can't judge a book by its cover. So once we finally got to SK and Raven connecting, I was shocked. I was like, okay, I didn't see this happening. But I understand Raven's perspective of kind of your beauty overshadowing your depth and the lengths in which you can go when you want to really go deep with somebody. So I was happy to see that she peeled back some layers and they were able to really kind of connect on a deeper level, and she mutually agreed with Bartiz that they kind of needed to move on. Now I will say I don't think SK, knowing he was going to go to school and be having to temporarily move out of state, was a smart idea for him to apply for the show. But the thing is I haven't gone anywhere with it, but I've gone through the interview process for a show before. And the idea is, they film and they pick these people, they pick the people a year out. They film anywhere from a year to 6 months to 8 months out. So it's kind of like what the producers tell you and the casting people tell you is basically don't put your life on hold. And I understand that, in not putting your life on hold, that means I want to go get my MBA. I got accepted to this program. I'm going to go ahead and just push that through. And whatever happens, happens. So I understand how, he maybe didn't anticipate what that process was going to look like, if he was even going to be picked for the show, all that good stuff. But I knew that would probably be a problem. As we saw, Raven was like, I'm finna get married and you about to leave. I don't know about that. So you just never knew how that was going to end up working out. So I was really shocked that SK said no at that wedding. And I feel like Raven ass was shocked too. It was kind of like a blow to the chest. I feel like I could see her heart sinking into her stomach because he really was all about her. But you know what I appreciate about SK, and I think it shows his character, is in him saying no. I believe he really takes the role of a husband seriously. I think that he didn't want to half-ass taking on that role. When you become a husband, the expectation raises as far as what your wife is looking for you to do. And as a man, I feel like they raise the expectation. Well, they should. Good men do raise their expectation of how they need to show up and provide for their wife. So I think that he made a smart decision based on, just kind of being unsure. Because Raven did give him some iffy vibes as far as like, well, you're going to be gone. I feel like you should still pay the bills here. And I don't think she was completely wrong in that. I think her reaction just wasn't giving team player. Like, and I get it because it's like you just meet a man, y'all just got together, and he's expecting you to kind of like be there with him through this however many 2-year journey while he pursues this thing. And it's like, I wasn't trying to sign up for that. So I feel both sides. So I understand why he said no. I felt so bad for Raven because you could tell, she was really hurt, but I think she handled the situation, and she handled him with a lot of grace, because I think she knew that it was a difficult decision for him to make, and he wasn't making it lightly, and we didn't know what was going to happen between them based on him saying no. Because again, when you turn down a proposal or you call off a wedding, it can feel like that's it, but I think that that's because people see it as black and white. But I think that there can be a gray area that exists when and the other person knows that what you all have is very valuable and important to you. But timing is everything. So I think the middle ground, and then we could go ahead and just bring in the fact that they are still dating. Love it. And I think that is the best solution for them, because in them deciding to still date, it gives him a chance to pursue what he needs to pursue without all of this expectation of a husband and caring for his wife. But also gives her a chance to kind of maintain her independence and, have fun with it. Date that man, support him from afar, knowing that you guys are already 10 steps ahead of the average couple who just meets and start dating, because you know that you want each other. You know that you do see marriage in your future, but it's just a timing thing. Like, let's let this man finish school. And let me tell you something. I feel like one of Raven's homegirls, somebody went and whispered in my good sis' ear and told her to think big, bitch. They told that bitch, think big, okay? Because SK is not no regular man. He not no regular nigga, okay? You got the Nigerian culture, which already, has a certain standard and expectation of how you care for your wife, how you care for your family, being able to financially provide. Like, you want to be taken care of, Raven, but you also, you're an independent woman. You want to do what you can. I feel you. However, you want to let that man go do what he need to do to up his bag. And once that bag is up, then you really locked in, okay? Then it's given like, I can go teach Pilates whenever I feel like it, because my man, he got everything covered, okay? So I feel like somebody told her like, bitch, don't be dumb. Don't let no good man go away because the timing was off, okay? Play the long game. Sometimes with good men who are goal-oriented, you got to play the long game. That's all I'm saying. Okay, where I'm at. Yes. Money, look, it was money at the end of that rainbow. That's what I wrote down, okay? She knew what she needed to do. Okay. I love SK. But baby, why didn't nobody put no chapstick on him when he was on screen talking? It just, it was dry. He needed the chapstick. And I will say, when they was starting to get to know each other outside of the pods, I was concerned about what their chemistry, their physical chemistry, like that romantic chemistry, how that was going to click. So when they finally started to like touch and kiss on each other, I'm like, yes, let's get to this part. Because, I think sometimes when you vibe with a man mentally, but you may not be sure physically how you all connect, or how if he can, like, sometimes I feel like certain men, they don't necessarily always exude big dick energy, but they could be the nicest and the sweetest of men. So you don't necessarily want to write them off, but it's like when you're not getting that BDE, you don't know if they're going to be able to kind of be that rough, pull you, throw you on the bed, take advantage of you type of guy, And that's what I kind of got from that interaction is I felt like, Raven is probably used to a certain type of man who is going to ravage her. And I'm like, does SK have that in him? And SK got a little, once he started getting a little handsy, hand on the booty and shit, I'm like, okay, SK, bring it out. That's that razzle dazzle they was talking about. I was sad that Raven didn't have much family involvement. Like she just doesn't have much family from what I remember her describing. And that's why I think it was so sweet how her mom kind of took her in. And even though they had some concerns being Nigerian and your family not being there, I think it was really sweet how they took her in. And I think Raven knew that even though I don't have much family or they aren't very present, SK and his culture, it's a village, right? Like, so she knew that she would kind of be hopefully embraced and brought into that fold and given that like big family village energy. Because the thing is some women would have been intimidated by the whole Nigerian culture thing. Like, it can be a lie. They dictating certain things about your wedding. They telling you certain things about what you need to be doing as a wife, what you need to be doing in these streets to not embarrass your man, and knowing that she was a bottle girl, all of that, I could see how it's kind of like, oh, I don't know if I'm a tarnish the family name, you know what I mean? So I think some women would have got scared off by that. But I'm glad to see that she kind of embraced it, didn't let it kind of scare her off, because I think it's a lot of expectation marrying into a Nigerian African family. And she was beat down at the reunion, okay? I was so glad to see her do something else with her hair than that motherfucking curly fro. Like, let's let the wash and go sit on the side for a second. What else can you give? So I was really excited to see, her dressed up. I just say this, all the girls at the reunion ate down. Everybody looked bomb, okay? Hair, makeup, everything, outfits, everything did what it needed to do. Shout out to the Love is Blind season 3 girls for showing up and showing out, okay? All right, let's move on to the next couple. Cole and Zenab. All right. I initially liked them in the pods. I liked them as individuals and I liked them as a couple. But baby, once they got out of them pods and you kind of saw how they was interacting, it was a lot. Like, I really didn't anticipate their personalities clashing as much as they did. I will say that Cole, of course, was painted out to be the villain. And I'm going to say that Zenab has her own shit. She got her own stuff. And I think that seeing the reunion in the light that we did and seeing how she walked away from him at the wedding kind of exposed that. So what I'll get into is Zenab made it seem like Cole really like broke her down, in regard to her self-esteem, making her feel like, she wasn't pretty. Now, of course, Cole, he had his inappropriate conversation with Colleen. Okay, whatever. And he was wrong. One thing about as a woman, sometimes you can't ask men certain stuff. You can't ask men certain stuff that you may not want to hear. Zenab sat up here and asked that man about, I don't know how they got on a conversation of him rating her. So you get rated, you get your number, and then you turn around and you ask him, is there anybody that he thinks is a 10 out of 10? Like, that's just signing up to get your feelings potentially hurt. Like, you don't know what that man could have said. And he was honest, but also I think his honesty, like, it obviously wasn't what she wanted to hear. And then it created this Colleen and Cole situation that I feel like was a little deeper. They made it seem deeper than it really actually was. And I'm going to get to that later. But, okay, so in her asking that, I understand that they were struggling. Cole felt like he was struggling to connect with her physically. She wasn't exactly his type. I mean, the thing is, sometimes people have types. Like, we can't control that. But I do think, my belief is that Zenab had some self-esteem and body image issues before meeting him. And the reason I say that is because she took certain moments and dramatized them to kind of fit the narrative that she had in her head about him not being attracted to her. we can just jump right into the cutie situation, right? They finally showed us at the end of the reunion what this whole debate was about, and him saying that, well, according to her, him saying that, oh, are you really gonna eat two cuties? Like, the way she laid it out was like this man was really, saying he took a plate, he snatched a plate away. And when we seen the scene, we obviously saw that her interpretation of that interaction was much more dramatic than what actually occurred. But when you have self-esteem issues, body image issues, you will take something like that and inflate it in your mind so that it is skewed to fit the narrative that you already believe about yourself. So for her to sit there and say there were days she wasn't eating, it's giving underlying potential eating disorder for you to feel like those were the lengths you needed to go to. And was it really for Cole, or was it for yourself? Because like I said, that cutie situation, she was wrong for how she tried to spin that. She really tried to make it seem like the man was judging her for eating two cuties, when he was just like, I don't know what you ate today. We sitting here eating. I was waiting on them to get to it. Like, they sitting there talking about all this stuff. I'm like, where is the issue? And when he finally said it, it wasn't like, oh my God, you're gonna eat two cuties, you're such a fat ass. Like, that's not what it gave. Like, we finna go to dinner in a minute. And even in which, I don't know if she played it back in her mind and she made it bigger, because even in the moment, she didn't exactly react to him like she was offended that he asked her that. So, that was that. I think Cole is a little immature, though. Like, when they pan to that man's apartment, baby, and that toilet, disgusting. Like, I'm glad he went ahead and explained he had intention of cleaning up. But my thing is, you let your apartment get that nasty or that dirty. And then he said something about the power got cut off, and that's why it was flies and maggots and shit. I feel like if you routinely kind of keep your place up, you don't have to do no deep-ass cleaning before you got to take a flight at the last minute. You would have came back and it wouldn't have been that bad. It was nasty. You would have thought that Cole was the 25-year-old fresh out of college. It just, that would have turned me off. Big yuck. Zena definitely has passive-aggressive tendencies. Like, the way in which she would address him, like, her communication style is passive-aggressive. Like, this whole, like, do you think that you can pick your clothes up off the floor or not throw your bath towels in the tub? It's like, just tell him that you would like for him, if he could, if it's not too much trouble, to be a bit more conscious of cleaning up after himself, versus like asking it in this very like passive aggressive way where he can, and then when he asks you, are you being passive aggressive? You're like, no. Like, yes, you are. Like, you feel like the man is dirty and you want him to stop being dirty. And it'd be more assertive to just sit there and say like, hey, you not cleaning up behind yourself has been getting under my skin a little bit. Like, how can we work together to help you kind of pick up in that area? Okay. And the way she was talking to him, it's like, I think sometimes over time, when you with somebody for a year, a few years, you build a certain comfort level with them, right? To kind of just talk to them in the way in which she spoke to him. She didn't talk to that man like she just met him 3 weeks ago. And I feel like when you just met somebody 3 weeks ago, a part of you is still trying to make a good impression, right? Like, you're not trying to like bring out all your crazy out the closet. And so the fact that like she was just so comfortable with just, you need to do this and and I'm glad she seen herself on a reunion, was like, oh my God, like I sound like such a bitch. This head came off, friend, sorry. That's just what it was. I do understand that she was concerned about how his family would perceive and take her in, based on the fact that like Zena, it was so like her losing both of her parents, and that to me would mean, I would want somebody's family to want to embrace me off the bat. So the fact that they wouldn't talk to the girl, they wouldn't see the girl, they wouldn't come to the wedding, I would have some caution about marrying into a family like that, knowing that like I have my own trauma in relation to my family. So I thought I understand why she was like, I don't know about this. Okay. No. Talked about that. Now, in regards to, the things she said about Cole, as far as like how he broke her down and how her self-esteem has never been this low before, I feel like, based on how she described that cutie situation, I feel like even the other moments where she said, you're lucky that they didn't show it. You're lucky that they didn't show it. It's like, even those moments, I wish they would have, because we would have been able to have more of an accurate assessment of what actually took place. Because I feel like if you already think that a man is unattractive to you, you already deal with self-esteem issues, you're going to continue to take these moments and sew them into a narrative that you believe is happening, even if the reality of that is being skewed. It's distorted. So who's to say if Cole, like, based on that cutie situation, who's to say if he was really as much of an asshole to her as she made him out to be? And I'm gonna say, I believe the tears at the reunion. I feel like his goal was not to ever like break her down or make her feel less than. And I think him not thinking he was doing that, which is why we saw those moments where he's like, are you serious? Did that really happen? And she's like, yes, it happened. You're lucky they didn't show it. I think he genuinely didn't believe that those situations played out the way that she saw them in her head, which is where the disconnect was, versus like, oh, is he just not taking accountability? No, I think he legitimately didn't see those situations happening the way in which she presented them. And then the way in which she interpreted it and she presented it to other people, which is now why you got the girls looking at Cole sideways, because it's like, were y'all there? Did y'all actually see these things? Or are y'all going off of what Zanab said he did based on her skewed perception? And then in regard to this whole him Cole and Colleen thing, watching that conversation back, it was more lighthearted than I think Matt or Zanab like realized. Like, it, looking at it, it's like, okay, yes, they connected in the pods. Yes, like, I think it wasn't that big of a deal to say that, they're each other's types in the real world. All this, oh, we're gonna run off together, or like that's how they was making it seem, or whatever the comment was. Whatever happens, happened. Like, who made that up? Who added that to the scenario? Because that shit was never said. And that's what they was holding on to for so long, as far as when we get in the real world, whatever happens. That's not what, they was flipping stuff, and I ain't like that. Now, a lot of people were comparing Cole to Shake early in the season. And I don't think Cole is a Shake. Not as bad as Shake. Nowhere near as bad as Shake. Like, Shake really, he has some issues. So I don't think it's fair to say that that's how, he was. I think she did embarrass him at that wedding. And she went hard on his ass. Like, she really read him in front of all of his people. And, again, created this narrative that it gave borderline abusive. I wasn't picking that up from him. I wasn't. Okay. Colleen and Matt. Let's go ahead and jump into them. Something about the both of them gives me desperate. Like, desperate to be married, desperate to be in love. And there were a few moments in which I feel like I saw that side from both of them. So I feel like Colleen's main goal was to get married to anybody who affirmed her. Like, we seen that she was all about Cole, and when Cole said he was off of her, homegirl was distraught. Like, kind of like, I'm never picked. I'm never the one that's chosen thing. And I understand that can be hurtful. But then it's like, soon as Matt started to show her a little bit of attention, now she all about Matt, right? Like, now this your man, you love him, and I don't really feel like she was paying Matt that much attention until Cole kind of pushed her to the side and said, yeah, I'm good on you. Okay, yeah, that's what I said. I think their situation was a very clear picture of like the person who likes you, right? So like, okay, Cole don't want me. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pay attention to the man who actually is showing me attention, who feels like he's connecting with me, who's kind of putting me on this pedestal, right? Like I'm his number one. However, fast forward, I feel like what we saw is kind of like that thing in life where you want something so bad and then you get it and it's not as great as you thought it would be. And that's how I feel like that's the energy she was giving me. It's like once she finally got with Matt and she seen like how much he was about her, I feel like she kind of got a little cold with him. Like just kind of started to take a step back, kind of unsure. But Matt and his relationship trauma was all up and through. I've been watching Girlfriends, so if you see me making Girlfriends reference, it was all up and through their situation. Okay, Matt was a little shifty, in the words of my girlfriend Maya. He a little shifty. Something about him is shifty. But just those two incidents with the club and the situation with Cole, I think he is still recovering from the hurt and the trauma that was caused of his ex getting pregnant by somebody else, and they, not working out, or him like she cheated and then got pregnant. That's such a dumb move. So I feel like he is still really sensitive, hypersensitive to any perceived behavior that would be hurtful to him, and that's why his reactions were just very kind of explosive, like cussing and I'm done and I'm leaving, and then you reason with him and then he like, all right, I'm cool. I'm here. I ain't going nowhere. Because that's the bit of desperate part. He really want to make this work, but also like being able to see that you blew that shit out of proportion. It was not that deep. I don't know what happened with the club situation where there was a miscommunication, but him feeling like, oh, she's out till 2:30. I'm not marrying that. It's like, bro, slow your roll. Don't, again, making permanent decisions on temporary feelings. That's the space that he's in, and I'm a bit concerned. Okay. Something about Colleen looked off at that reunion. I don't know if it was the way they were sitting on the couch. It kind of seemed like Matt was like cowering over her. Kind of like, and I'm not saying Matt is an abuser, but the image of it gave me like if you was to see an abuser and his girlfriend out, and he all smiley and he got her close and she's sitting there kind of like looking uncomfortable. Something about Colleen looked uncomfortable. Like the facial expressions looked so uncomfortable throughout that whole show. There were very few moments where she kind of smiled and lightened up. I don't know, again, if I'm just thinking of when they showed the interaction with Cole and she felt really embarrassed about how she acted. But something about that was it just was uncomfortable. Okay, moving on. Nancy and Bartiz, baby. I feel like Nancy was a trooper. And she dodged the bullet with that Andrew baby. Like, without getting too far off topic, I had such mixed feelings about Andrew. Like, a part of me saw the appeal, well-traveled, maturity, the way he spoke about how he sees his future life. But then a lot of that shit was bullshit, baby. It was such bullshit. He laid that stuff on thick. And I'm glad that she dodged that bullet, because Lord knows how this would have turned out how she picked him. I think, Nancy gives good, she seems like a good cat. She has a lot going on career-wise. She's very established. But realistically, she just had no business with a 25-year-old. No business. And it's not to say that there aren't certain 25-year-olds who are mature. I think that, again, when you become a little older and you get through your 20s, there's just a different understanding that you have for what a person brings to the table, some of the baggage they may have, such as like her still being in business with her ex, that sort of stuff. That I think, a more mature man would have just been like, all right, this is a bag move. Like, this is business. I'm not really worried about that. They would have been kind of more sure within themselves. Now, based on how Bartiz talked to her, she the one I could see having self-esteem issues after this show that she may have not had before she came into the show. Because she seemed very sure about herself. And it was just sad to see how Bartiz sat there and gassed the fuck out of Raven in front of his new fiance. And then had the nerve to be like, after you done said all this shit, to be like, can I be that honest with you? You already have, babe. What I'm gonna say? No, like that's why I said she's a trooper. She tried to play it cool because a lot of women would have bit his head off the moment, it's like you sitting here talking to me like I'm one of your homeboys and not your fiance. I don't want to hear that shit. And it's just, I think that's the immaturity piece of being 25 and not knowing how to read the room and not knowing what's appropriate. So I think she gave him a lot of grace, too much grace. Even after he said no at the wedding, she was very tactful, very tasteful, very gracious in how she handled that situation. I think a part of her wanting to talk to him in private was to really just get clarity, because I think it seemed like they were on a better page than they had been. And then for him to get up there and say no, I could see why she was, shocked, because it's like, I thought we was good. And then wanted to talk to him, and baby, why my friend on Twitter called Nancy brother baby joker. The scream I scrumped, okay, that is fucking hilarious, because he was definitely giving like baby joker vibes, and I don't blame him, because don't play with my sister, okay? Like, that man was over there like, I want some answers. His family overstepped a little bit, but I feel like when you get put into a situation like that where it could go either way, they wasn't prepared for that. They was like, either you all about her or leave her the fuck alone. And the one, not the two. That's what Baby Joker said, okay? But yeah, I do think that Bartiz just doesn't have the maturity levels to be able to like read the room and understand certain things that you do and don't say or do to the person that you love and you about to marry and all that other stuff. I'm funny. You can tell that Bartiz's mama is white. She's the white one. And somebody on Twitter was like, you got a black daddy and a white barber. They showed a video of him getting his hair cut and his barber is white. And it's like, that's what happened when you got a white mama, them biracials, No shade to the biracials, but we all know that when the mama is white, it's just a different level of like behavior that you see with that. The abortion conversation was a lot. It was heavy. It was necessary though. I'm glad because see, the thing about me, if I'm on a show like that, I am going to have to get to my nitty-gritty questions. My nitty-gritty questions would have been asked in the pods, though, because I got a good 5 of them that I need to know before I even consider moving forward with you. So the fact that it came up and they were on opposing sides, I'm going to just say I understand Nancy. I get it. Especially given her line of work. Special needs kids require a lot. They do. Everything she said about, how it affects the family dynamic, the stress that it puts on everybody, I get it. It's not an easy decision to make, and it's not necessarily a right or wrong decision to make. It's about what you feel is best for your life and what you're prepared to deal with. Because God forbid, again, people have kids that are special needs and they put them up for adoption, or, they neglect them. It's just bad. So I think that there could have been a little bit more understanding there. I think it's always different being a woman versus a man. And then being an older woman and understanding everything that comes along with carrying a child, raising a child, and knowing that realistically, more often than not, women are the primary parent. So men, they look at kids just from a different scope of like, oh yes, I want a baby, I love my baby regardless, and I'd always be there. And it's like, in real time, most of the time, even when the parents are together, the father is just not as involved or as responsible for the child as the woman. So if I got a choice, I'm not signing up for that either. I feel her. And sorry to whoever that offends, that's just what it is. And it look, he's sitting there talking about, oh, I would care for the child. Now, if she had the baby and came out with defense, and then she left you and that baby, then you want to drag her as she's a bad person. No, you said you wanted to keep it, so here you go. Bet you wouldn't like that, right? No, of course not. I think that Bartice's family's validation was just very important to him, and knowing that initial conversation, like I number one don't think that that's a conversation that you need to be having with your new family through the gate. Like, you just met these people. Abortion is not something that's, again, politics, religion, some of that shit you just don't need to touch on when you first meet somebody. Because I'm obviously went left his sister in there crying like, girl, give me a fucking break. I will say I'm proud of Nancy for basically, because I think Bartice thought in saying no that they could still try to figure something out. And I'm glad she was like, we're not doing that. You know, I think that is when her self-worth and self-respect kicked in, and the bigger picture kind of revealed itself as far as like, how can we even come back from that? Knowing how his family feels about her, knowing how now her family feels about him, I think it's unrealistic to think that y'all can come back from that and like date and potentially like be a thing, because now both of y'all families hate each other. Well, hate your spouse. I think she deserves somebody on her level. I think Bartice was a perfect example of, men sometimes focusing on the wrong things. And I think that's something that comes with age and maturity. Them being able to not be so hyper focused on the physicality of something. Because the reality is, it's like, Nancy's a pretty girl. Again, dolled the fuck up at that reunion. The blonde, like, highlight, it was just, it was so good. She looked so good. But yeah, just, I think that he was attracted to her enough, but because she wasn't a Raven and he couldn't get past if me and you walked into a bar, we're going to demand the attention of the room. Like, not getting past that superficial shit, which is why he couldn't stay invested. And that hot and cold, I don't like that hot and cold. One day you all up in my face, the next day you don't want to be around me. And he tried to make it seem like my homegirl was clingy. Now, we only saw so much of it, but I think she was more so expressing like, I'm noticing a change in your behavior. What's up? If Raven had a flirty back with Bartice, he would have went. He would have went so easy. And at 25, what do you expect, right? That's just, how they move. All right, last couple. Brennan and Alexa. Cute couple. Kind of boring. I mean, compared to everybody else's stuff. And the thing is of course, like, when it comes to TV, boring is healthy. Most people feel like if their relationship is too healthy, it feels boring. So us watching that, it's like, y'all ain't got no problems, y'all ain't got no beef, y'all ain't got no drama. But they were healthy from jump. I think they had a good understanding of each other. The only thing I thought would push Brennan away was how intense her family was. Like, they was not playing. They like, this is what you signing up for. This is how we behave. This is what we get down with. Religion, all of that. And, I love the fact that, like, her dad, like, it just gives daddy's girl. Like, don't play about my daughter. You could definitely tell she come from some money, right? So it just seemed like, I'm giving my daughter to you. Your bag better be where it need to be to take care of her. And she just is used to having a certain lifestyle and living a certain standard. And so I didn't know if he was going to be up for that challenge. But I was glad to see that Brennan didn't scare easily. Yeah. I really just love a man who can appreciate a woman with a big personality. Because Alexa, she don't play. And she say what she means. She mean what she say. And she was starting fires at that reunion. Okay. I hope the rest of y'all caught that. But it was a little shade here, a little shade there. And Brennan was just sitting there like, my wife gonna say whatever come to mind. Whatever she felt like she want to say. But yeah, I don't have much to say about them because obviously, you know, they're in a pretty healthy spot. I do think, you know, the whole idea of like we're not having problems, but then they move in together. And now you see these little things that start to show up when you live with somebody, right? Like it's bound to happen. It's just a matter of when and what the arguments are gonna be about. But that's it. Okay. So I wasn't fully impressed with the season, but it was I think, again, for entertainment purposes, it's like, what else are we going to watch? Let's get into it. We know the format. We want to see who they picked. It'd be nice if some more black people, full black people, could get some shine and find some love and have their love story told. But, you know, casting, television, production, you just never know which direction they're going to go in and what they're going to look for. So, I mean, I guess, but hopefully in future seasons, they find a way to like spice it up, give the people more of what we're looking for. Okay. So that's it, y'all. Thanks for checking in. Leave some comments in the comments. Let me know what y'all caught, what y'all think, you know, what you all's perspectives were. Let's chat about it. See ya.